Hey guys, I wanted to do this video about what happiness is and what joy is. And from someone that wants to die often and goes through a lot of pain and has counseled suicidal people, including suicide, or has attempted suicide twice, uh, once by overdose. This video is going to be very helpful to people that actually deal with suicide, trying to combat the desire to do it. What is joy? I think I've said this before on my recent videos. Joy is a state of mind that allows you to see the beauty and the virtue in all things, that allows you to see purpose and hope even when the night is getting darker. That because you see beauty in the present pain, it also helps you have um, internally cling on to purpose and meaning in the pain to get through the present, to get to the future hope, dream, prayer that you are um, aiming towards. Now, just like just like many holy negatives, holy negative means that it's not evil, it's not bad, but it's tedious in experience, but virtuous and prosperous also in experience. So you only find true purpose if you've gone through true despair. You only find true freedom if you've gone through slavery. You can only find wholeness in brokenness. You know, an idea that I was pondering, and I do believe, is that what if things had to go this way? What if God had to make a special, intricate piece of himself known as mankind, and he had to be separated from them, and then separated from him in order for them to be unified? Because you don't find true wholeness without brokenness, without some sense of separation. So, what if all this, and this would also mean like things could be more decreed, uh, propagate and perpetuate. I mean, um, when you're talking to a suicidal person, you have to get them to understand is that life is fundamentally two things, especially for the people that their life is not so sweet that they just have an ignorance and an innocence from suffering. So often they're very shallow by proxy of that and have an ignorance to true wisdom and ignorance to having a deep, broad personality and an ignorance to true joy, because true happiness, I mean, emotional bliss, happenstance. Because you may think that if you life and sweet that you have happiness, but once you go through a, a lot of suffering and you yearn and pray for that uh, ideological happiness and promised land, you know when you're yearning for it, and especially once you get it, that what you had, what you called happiness, wasn't happiness. It was just ignorance and innocence from suffering. You actually had a blinder on. People that have actually been molded by suffering, they have the proper lens in which to perceive the broken and fallen world. The perception according, I think, to tragedy, it's called in philosophy, or poetry. It's like there's a perception of the world where it's like more utopian and not so bad, and then there's a perception of the world where it's like fallen and corrupted and it's intrinsically suffering, and man is intrinsically evil, and that's like the perception according to, I think, tragedy. Um, you know, kind of like the difference between the restrained view of man, which is how man is restrained. He can't be truly sinful nature, and he's restrained by a limited autonomy because he's made in the image of God, and he's not God himself. And then to the liberal, unrestrained human nature, where he's not really, where man is somehow intricately virtuous somehow, so he can transcend any evil uh, inclination or desire or mechanism he's in. But you have to get a suicidal person to understand that life is fundamentally suffering and fundamentally love. The suffering lets you know that the world is broken and corrupt. And the love lets you know that there is purpose, there is hope, there is light above that you can look and perceive and even grasp through different things, through relationship with God, through a wife, through a friend, through things that are truly virtuous and happy and blissful that you encounter in life. Experiences, whether, perceiving beauty and perceiving art, transcendent things. So life is fundamentally suffering. And if you have a lens and a heart that's been through suffering that can empathize with people that suffer, then you don't just kill yourself, because this life is not just about you going through suffering and then to get to the to get to your individualistic uh, promised land. That in the suffering, your life is about other people, alleviating other people, and preventing the multiplication of other people's suffering. When you want to reason with someone who's not cold and not just like just compressed and congested within him or herself, you have to appeal to selflessness, that they live to something that's not just in their own hemisphere of experience in life. They live for other people. That two of the main components to suicidal desire. I'm in this. I'm preaching to the choir because yes, I often do want to kill myself. Like legitly, I often do want to die, and I know there's a promised land ahead for me, and I've helped multiple people, but I'm preaching to the choir. But this video is important because suicide is a very pressing topic. So you have to also address the two main components to suicidal desire. And I did this with this girl that already attempted suicide twice, and could have maybe done it if it wasn't for her ex-boyfriend, because she was pale and overdosed. Um, so it's you got to understand the two components to suicidal desire is despair, is hopelessness. Hopelessness in the future, and hopelessness in the fact that hopelessness and escape. Escape because the present is too much to bear often to keep pushing on to that hope, whether it's the hope of other people, to other people, or the hope for your own future, or the despair that there is no hope. That things are just falling apart. Life is just tragedy and calamity, and the desire to escape. The desire to escape from the pain, the desire to escape from this life that if you're not ignorant and innocent to it is fundamentally suffering. People die, they go to hell, people are starving. If you have a lot of empathy and compassion, you feel it deeply. People are starving, they're hungry, they're dying of cancer, they're sick. Most people go into hell, like this kind of thing. Life is fundamentally suffering. But if you who have been blessed with wisdom and wounds and scar tissue, you can be the one to reach the one or to reach the many. You can alleviate how much suffering you can after, when you get to your promised land, when you get to that rainbow, and during it. And that's actual purpose. Purpose is often found through and after a storm, because true purpose has depth to it. If there's no reason that you ever pondered to leave this earth and to likewise stay, there is no deep and true purpose. Please go. I'm live. Please go. Give me a second. Give me 5 minutes, please. I'm live on YouTube. But deep resounding purpose is found when there is deep reasoning not to be present. But purpose is found when there is meaning beyond the reasoning in reality to not be present, to be present. Purpose is true purpose is often transcendent above the turmoil, whether past or present. So, people that suffer, a lot of people that don't suffer, they would never find true happiness because, like I explained earlier, all they have is ignorance and innocence to and from suffering. And some of the most shallow, unwise, unintelligent people haven't gone through much in their life. And likewise, if you examine history and examine the present, some of the most intelligent, wise, gifted, deepest, profoundest people have suffered tremendously. So a lot of people that don't really suffer, they don't really have a lot of hope for actual happiness and likely actual love and actual purpose. and wisdom, and to have actual depth and profoundness to the soul. But someone that has truly been suffering and truly suffers and has that ability either to grasp it, or they already grasp it, or they already been grasping it, growing in wisdom, growing in intelligence, and in a way that your mind uh, not being stretched through calamity and pain, and your soul being stretched and deepened to not drown in the pit of this world, wouldn't be able to. People need not to overly demonize suicide. If you can't address the core components of it, you don't have really the grounds to speak on it. You're just hurting people. I've counseled other people through suicide. Actual suicidal people. And said I'm preaching to the choir here. But from someone who, I know there's a promised land ahead, but for somebody that actually suffers and is very compassionate, so feels the suffering of those around him deeply, it makes it hard to live. I'm speaking on this topic. I love you guys. Be blessed.